Didn't escort him, I showed it to him.
Andrew, what do you got?
Roy, what's your level of confidence in this game happening?
High.
Obviously, you had another rivalry game where it didn't work out with the team having difficulty getting here. Have you guys had any discussions with NC State about?
I have not been involved in any discussions. Clint and the ACC office and Bubba and I guess other people on campus perhaps have had any conversations. I haven't had any. I think we're gonna play.
Is it at all a distraction on your kids? You know, will we, won't we, you know, the whole hoopla going on out there?
I have no idea. I haven't seen them since yesterday at practice. We didn't talk about it then. I want to go out there at 3 o'clock today and say we're preparing to play at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. And if something changes, we'll let you know. If don't, let's play at 8 o'clock.
What would you attribute the turnovers these last 3 games? What would you attribute those to?
I attribute them to bad decisions. I know it's not exactly where you're heading, or I assume it's not where you're heading. The Georgia Tech game was an unusual game. I think the other night, number of turnovers, you know, again, is a 45-minute game instead of a 40-minute game, but I don't know if we had any turnovers in the overtime. I don't think we did. But the pace of the game was up. I look at the percentage of lost ball as opposed to just the number of turnovers. I do realize that the last, I'll take your number because I think that's what I would guess too, the last 3 games they've been a lot more than I wanted them to be for sure, particularly point guard turnovers. You know, Joel, I think, has had 11 in the last 2 games. Or maybe it was the 2 games before.
No, it was 2 games.
The last 2 games.
Roy, over the last month, you've expressed varying levels of frustration after games. Are we far enough into the season where you've got a pretty good idea of the identity of this team?
I haven't. Maybe we're far enough into the season for you guys to figure it out, but I haven't. You know, it's strange because Kentucky game, we had, the game was just a high level, up and down offensive performance. And we could have done a lot of things better defensively. The Monmouth game, it's a 19 or 20 point game, and all of a sudden they make 3 or 4 threes in the last 4 minutes, and now it's a 8 or 9 point game, and then it goes back and there's a weird second half and the technicals, and then Georgia Tech, I'm still trying to figure out what happened with our confidence level and our efficiency during that game. And then Clemson game was just like a backyard brawl. I mean, it was, they did this and we did this, they did this and then we did this. We withstood some runs of theirs and they withstood some runs of ours, and it was in a much different game than we've played recently. And so they've all been different. But and then, you know, we went 2 games without Joel, and then get him back in, and he played pretty well, but he didn't make any field goals, you know, and then he made a bunch of field goals, and so the whole performance has been sort of unusual and hadn't been very smooth for us. So my answer is no, but maybe that's what I'm going to figure out later on, is the makeup of the team.
How much can the identity, whatever the identity is, how much can it change when Theo comes back?
Well, I think it will change, you know, and how he performs, how many minutes have him in the game. He's such a effective player, and he's such a stat sheet stuffer. He does a lot of different things, and some of them are not positive. You know, and so you got to see, okay, can I go with this and understand that that's, you know, game slippage. It hadn't been in the games all year. Can I go with that? And well, no, you can't. And so it's going to be a by the seat of your pants kind of decision about how much to play him, and then I think he'll be searching. You know, it's not going to go out there and just be smooth sailing kind of thing. And I've had and have seen some of those games where a guy comes back first, and from other teams. The kid at Duke came back and got 36. His first game back.
All right, Kelly.
Missing 6 or 7 games. I had Rachel Fred's come back from a game at Kansas after 9 games, gets 31. You know, so, and then we've had some games come back at first game and they really struggle. And so I'm not really trying to figure out what it's going to be, because I don't want to plan for something that might not even be there. But I think the complexity and the chemistry of our team will change a great deal when Theo gets back into that complete rotation.
Do you have
Is
an
he ready?
update on that situation?
Right now, unless he screws it up at practice today, I'll play him tomorrow.
How much has he been able to do in practice? Has he been fully?
Well, you know, it depends, because the guys last week, it was nothing but half court when we did anything, and Doug's not in here to even remind me, but I think we completely released him to start going full court maybe the day before before the Clemson game, or it might have been that we played them on Tuesday, so I think it was Monday, but it could have been Sunday. You know, but he's been complete up and down a week, but he's been practicing probably 2 weeks.
Coach, I know you don't mind, snatching a guy out of the game when he messes up, but with Theo, do you give him a longer leash to kind of work his way through some kinks?
It depends on how the game is going. If the guy screws it up and it's just a silly thing and you shouldn't be doing that, I'm more prone to take him out at that point, especially if it has a chance to affect the outcome of the game. The other night, I went with Joel Berry the entire second half and the overtime and never took him out. And because he's the guy that I wanted in there at that specific moment. So I've really never had a plan. And so, the other night, I just felt like we needed Joel Berry in the game. Not anybody else. We needed Joel Berry. And that's the reason I stuck with him. And gosh, I bet you I haven't done that 5 times in over 1,000 games. I know it's over 1,000 now.
Would his minutes be limited tomorrow? Like, is there like a certain number that
No,
he can't go over?
Theo's?
Yeah.
No, see how he does. The better you play, the more you play.
Coach, your thoughts on?
No, go right, let him finish up, and then I'll go back.
And on Joel, after the Indiana game, he mentioned that the loss was good because, a team can get so complacent, they needed that wake-up call. And with the close game against Clemson, he said, hey.
Well, I've been awake every damn game. I don't need any wake-up calls. So I would disagree with already what you're saying.
That's my point. Would you rather the mentality be, man, at some point, we need to start imposing our will on guys?
I think it makeup of everybody in their mental, so we got to play the best we can play, not even be concerned who that other person is. Again, I've said this, my players have heard this, and you guys may have heard. The only player I've ever seen who could turn it on and off was Michael, and he never freaking turned it off. He wanted to beat you, whether you were any good or you were not any good. And so that's my whole philosophy there. Wake-up calls, I've been awake every game I've ever played in. I don't need somebody to slap me. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Your thoughts on NC State's Dennis Smith? What's your thoughts on him when you see him on film, and what will you tell your guys on how to stop this guy?
Well, my thoughts are that when I recruited him, I thought he had unbelievable potential. I thought he had a chance to be one of the best point guards I'd ever seen. And his early play at North Carolina State has made me feel that same way. Their entire team against Virginia Tech Wednesday night was about as impressive as I've seen. I mean, that team that I watched Wednesday night against Virginia Tech was better than Kentucky, was better than Indiana. It'll be the best team that we've played. And Dennis is just, he doesn't really have any weaknesses at point guard because he can shoot it, he can drive it to the basket and finish with his tremendous leaping ability. He can pass the ball, he can defend, he can take your ball away from you. He's got the whole package, and he's one of the premier point guards in our country already.
When you're trying to defend him, what's the biggest thing you want to take away from him?
I think you got to try to defend the total game because that's what he does. He's not just a shooter. He's not just a penetrator. So you can't say, okay, we got to stop his penetration. Okay, because if you back up, he can shoot it in. I don't think you can say you got to stop his three-point shot because you get up on him, it goes by you. And we've fortunately we've had a couple of guys like that as well. But I think you got to play the total defensive game, and you got to try to do everything in the whole package. You got to try to do a great job in every part of it.
Kennedy had the 10 offensive rebounds Tuesday, and as you mentioned after the game, a lot of them were his own misses. Was it just one of those nights, or has he got to do something different to be able to put it back in once he gets it
to be a premier player in this league, you can't go 5 for 14 as a big guy. And now you love 10 rebounds, and he made 2 great passes late in the game that he's got a tremendous ability to see the floor and against the press and those kind of things that really help us. But no, he's got to finish plays. And, you know, it's easy for me to say explode up there instead of just tipping it, but you got to be able to do it out on the court. But yeah, I like 10 offensive rebounds, but I'd like the 10 offensive rebounds to be when he was 10 for 14, because you know he's getting offensive rebounds from some other possessions kind of thing, and he's just got to keep focusing on it.
Because of the size, obviously Clemson's not as strong inside. NC State's got some big guys you can get, but how much more important is rebounding tomorrow than maybe it has been?
You know me, I've always said it's not, if it's not the most important, it's in the top 2 or 3 for sure, but I think the board play is extremely important. I think finishing plays around the basket, not just the board play. I think we've got to finish plays around the basket and try to do a good job of hoping that they don't finish some of those plays around the basket. I mean, they shot 64% for the game the other night. I mean, that's 40 minutes against a very good Virginia Tech team. It's very good defensively, but they shot 64%.
Roy, what's your earliest memory of Dennis Smith on the recruiting trail? Like, when did you first start hearing things?
Oh, gosh, I saw Dennis play as a sophomore, I guess. I went down and saw him play in Fayetteville as a sophomore.
Do you remember hearing like a big commotion about how good he might be? Or
No, I don't listen to anybody. I really don't. I say if somebody's a great player, I let it go in when you're not the other. Then that's the reason I go see him. But no, I'm sure that when I went in the game, either CB or Steve or Hubert or Joe or somebody had said, why don't you go see this? As a matter of fact, they had another kid who's at Tennessee, from the same high school team. Just drawing a blank with one of his teammates.
Quay Parker. Quay Parker.
Quay, yeah, Quay. Yeah, there were 2 of them. And if I'm not mistaken, gosh, guys, I see so many daggum games you're asking. So it might have even been against, I saw Harry play down in Fayetteville. I can't remember if it was against Dennis's team or not. But you tell me somebody's the greatest player since sliced bread, and I'll go see him. If you tell me he's fairly good, I'll go see him. But I don't give a dang what anybody else says. I really don't. I see more games than everybody.
Roy, your team leads the nation in rebounding margin. Against a team like Clemson, for example, that's smaller, how do you gauge how good of a performance you could do?
Well, again, rebound margin, I think, is a more stronger characteristic of how you're doing as opposed to number of rebounds, because pace, you know, the number of shots you take has to do with that, but the rebound margin is something I do really look at. But again, ours is a little skewed because we're Moses Malone in it. You know, we're laying it up, missing it, and getting it, laying it up, missing it, getting it, laying it up, and missing it. You know, we're padding those daggum totals there, so ours might be a little more misleading than I've seen in the past. You know, we've had good teams in the past. I would think that 2 things, that probably if you go back in the 29 years I've been a coach, I gotta think we're in the top 3 in all 29 years in points scored per game. I really do. I would not be surprised if for those 29 years if we're not number 1. And I gotta think we're the top 3 or 4 in rebound margin, because I emphasize it a lot. But this team, we've been patty caking that sucker up there a little bit too.
As, for lack of a better term, has Tony hit a little bit of a wall? And if so, what maybe a couple of things is he maybe not doing now as effectively as he was earlier?
You know, I don't know. I think his concentration slipped a little bit in a couple of games. He may play 25 minutes tomorrow, because I really don't go in a game saying this guy is only going to get 7 minutes today. I never do. It's just who I want at that specific time. And you know, Georgia Tech, it was a perimeter offensive game. You know, they had Lammers, and he's the only post player they had, and he's out at the high post. Clemson, you know, Blossom game, shot 5 threes, and he was one of their post players. So a lot of it is just matchups, and do we match them or do they have to match us? You know, late in one of the games we made them match us. You know, so I don't ever talk to guys about, are you getting the wall, because I don't want them to know the wall's there. I think you just gotta play.
Anybody else? All right.
Yep, here it comes. I
Hey,
heard
move my
it.
cover.
He's back.
I'm like Clark Kent. I was gonna come out like Superman.
Where's the cape?
I know, right?
You don't have any shoes on. Don't let those people see those ugly toes of yours, boy.
Oh.
Get some shoes
The
on.
media, they can't be talking about that.
I heard him coming.
You're not.
No, you're just getting started.
That's-
Joel
that changed-
Berry was supposed to be the player, so.
Changed my mind. Theo is not playing.
That would have been a lot funny if he would have still been in here.